Welcome back to ECE 320A. This little segment I'm entitling Reading the Textbook. You probably may not need help or hints on reading the textbook, but since this is an online class, I wanted to give you as many helpful tips and techniques as possible. The textbook that we're using is Electric Circuits by Nielsen and Rydell. We also have the Mastering Engineering website available to us. The one comment that I would provide for you that maybe you haven't thought of, maybe you have, is you don't have to read the textbook linearly. You don't have to start at page 1 and read all the way to the end. It's okay to spoil the ending. It's not like a novel. And the nonlinear approach that I'm going to simply suggest or put in front of you has the following flow. And I will go ahead and do that outlined flow with the textbook open. Let's just illustrate it via chapter 10. For example, chapter 10, all the chapters start with this marginal heading of chapter objectives. I would quickly read that and sort of get a feel for the topics that you're going to be talking about, and maybe then that reminds you of something you need to go back and look at that you've not completely remembered from the previous course or courses. Here you can talk about look at your chapter objectives. Then you might just quickly go to the end of the chapter and read the summary, simply to see what are the key concepts that you're going to be confronting in this chapter. And in chapter 10, that would be instantaneous power, average power, reactive power. Maybe you don't need to know what those are, but you now know that you're going to be looking at or trying to make sense of power factor, reactive factor, complex power, apparent power. What do these terms mean, and how can I make them more clear as I'm working through or reading through this new chapter of material? Then you might look at the homework assignment and say, okay, what problems have been assigned for this particular unit? And I believe I've assigned problem 10.1. Well, one of the features here in this textbook is you can see what textbook sections these problems are associated with, and now you can, on a piece of paper, write down, oh, I need to make sure that I'm reading these particular sections. Once you've found or sort of determined where you are relative to what sections you need to be looking at, you might now go back at the start of the chapter and just start browsing through and looking at what are you going to see. These practical perspectives sometimes are very helpful to relate the concepts to something practical. I would maybe be looking at the pictures, maybe the figures. There might be some responses or trajectories. There's now these terms that you've seen from the summary. Another figure, what are you actually going to be seeing? And again, you're going to be concentrating on the particular sections associated with your homework problems. As you're browsing through, you might also pay attention to these video symbols in the margin, and where those are going to be coming to you at are relative to these assessment problems. Those assessment problems with the video symbol are available in the Mastering Engineering study area, and you could then listen to someone else discuss or work through solutions or how they obtain these answers for particular assessment problems. Then you might simply go back into the beginning of the chapter and now start reading, and it wouldn't just be reading just to read. Now you probably want to have some paper, a pencil, maybe your calculator, and actively participate in this reading process, which then when you come up on an example. For example, 10.1, start you following what they're doing in their solution, maybe even writing that down and making sure that you're clear on where all these numbers are coming from so that when you get to your homework problems, it's not as far of a leap to actually produce solutions for your homework problems. That's a very quick overview of how to look at this textbook or read the textbook in a nonlinear manner and maybe make your time and your engagement with the text a little bit more meaningful and allow the learning to take place more effectively. I hope this helps.